for June 9th. Trish, will you call the roll, please?
Fitzgerald.
Here.
Aaron's.
Here.
Gogolewski.
Here.
Michelson.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
Rule.
Here.
Schuessler.
Here.
Wilson.
Here.
Waller.
Here.
Full house, huh? All right. In the mail, we got copies of the minutes for the May 12th meeting. Any additions or corrections? Seeing none, Terry.
So moved.
Second by Vic. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Tonight, we have 2 action items to work on. The recommendation for the Bauman Park play equipment and establishing fees for special events for utilizing park facilities. Starting with number 1, recommendation of Bauman Park. Ray.
Yes, behind me you can see the board with the playground structure on it from Lee Recreation. What we did was solicited proposals from, I think we had 5 different playground vendors submit proposals. We had 10 various designs. What we did between staff and the neighborhood group is we narrowed it down to the top 4 designs and brought those to, I had a neighborhood meeting last Monday and had the neighborhood come in, and whoever showed up, I gave them a little voting. And this was the top choice for the neighborhood. As you can see, there's a little nautical theme. Again, this is over at Bauman, so it's along the river. So they thought it'd be a little something different than what they see at Rochland and Rainbow in the area. So they really liked the nautical theme. They thought the kids would enjoy having a little boat or a ship to climb on. The surfacing will be the wood fiber, and it also includes the swing sets and a rock climbing wall. So that is what we're proposing. Is that's what the neighborhood spoke for as well.
Just curious, is this the same, only because lately it is in the same outfit?
Nope, this is Lee Recreation. And again, I know that Bill and I had talked that in the past we tried to stay with some of the same
we stayed
vendors.
with the same vendor because we have, we know how to put it together.
Yeah.
How to fix, yeah.
Correct. These aren't very different, and this is contracted for the vendor to come in and put it all together. The installation is included as part of the price. The other firm that you're speaking of was one of the other top firms that they looked at, but the neighborhood, again, really felt that they wanted to have something a little different than their small neighborhood park, so that's what we felt comfortable recommending. So what we're looking for tonight, if there's any questions, otherwise we do need to take this to the Common Council. It is a purchase of $50,000 for the play equipment and installation, so it needs to go to the Common Council. We would have it on their agenda for their second meeting in June, and once that's approved at the Common Council level, we'd place the order. Our hopes is that this would be in by the end of July, first part of August then.
Bill.
Ray, you want to guess what my question is for Bauman Park?
When the ball field and everything else will be completed?
Not that. The dock.
We've had some discussion with the Otter Street Fishing Club, as well as another group that has stated they might be interested in putting a fishing pier going out of Bauman Park. What we need to do is get a little more information, check with the DNR if it's something that they would allow, and we'd bring that back as another project in the future if it's something that we can get DNR permission to do. There may be some issues just based on the width of the river and some of the other issues out there, but we haven't checked into that yet, but we'll look into that, as well as the renovation of the ball diamond is going on. It should be in the next couple of weeks. You should see some work beginning out there as well on that.
Just to point out, these groups really would like to see a little dock down there for some of the younger kids. Nothing overwhelming, just a little T dock down there, and they're willing to fund it. So
That's always good, if they're willing to fund it.
absolutely.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, I need a motion to push this recommendation through to the council. Jonathan? Jim, you second?
Yep.
Okay. Trish, you call the roll.
Fitzgerald.
Aye.
Aaron's.
Aye.
Gogolewski.
Aye.
Michelson.
Aye.
Miller.
Aye.
Rule.
Aye.
Schuessler.
Aye.
Wilson.
Aye.
Waller.
Aye.
Okay. Second item, establishing fees for special events utilizing park facilities. In the packet, you got kind of a breakdown on the options. So Ray, would you want to go through those?
Yeah, I put this on just as an initial discussion for tonight because I think once the media picks up on it, there may be some interest by some of the special event groups. They may want to come in and have their voices heard on this as well. So we didn't put this down as an action item this evening, but I wanted to get the board's initial input on what the council back in January had a workshop regarding special events, some of the usage in the parks and some of the concerns associated with that. Some of those concerns, or a big concern, is if there's a large special event going on, and I'm going to use South Park as I did in my example. If there's a large special event going on in South Park, that really takes away the other shelters for use by residents, really consumes a lot of the park area, so that your typical resident or the resident use is limited during that special event. So when we took a look at it, the council said, well, if I'm a resident and I want to make sure that I have use of that shelter, I need to pay a rental for it. But if a special event comes in, they're not paying for use of all those shelters. So not only is the city resident losing use of the park for that period of time, there's potential revenue loss by the city because we could have been renting those out during those special event times. But if it's a special event, typically you're not going to see a family event going on down there because of the congestion and the number of vehicles. I would say the two that we have the biggest concern with, or the biggest number of special events, are going to be South Park and Menominee Park. And that shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody. Trish did do a survey of some of the neighboring communities and found that what they do to generate some revenue that would typically be lost is if it's a special event, again, saying South Park, we'd require them to rent all of the pavilions or all of the shelters in South Park. Because, again, you're utilizing the entire park, taking away that rental opportunity from the citizens. So what I did was try to give you a breakdown, again, for a South Park. An example, if somebody had a 2-day event at South Park, we'd require them to rent the gazebo for the 2 days at $45 a day. Shelter number 1, $65 for the 2 days, or per day at 2 days. Shelter 2, $55 a day for the 2 days, and Shelter 3 at $55 per day for the 2 days, for a total cost of $440 for the 2-day event. I don't think that's an extraordinary fee. There are some communities that charge flat fees around the state, and they charge a rather large fee, but I don't think we want to discourage the special events from occurring as well. But it is a way for us to ensure that some of that rental revenue that we may be losing is coming back to the city, and it's also a way, again, that residents don't feel that they're being slighted by not having to rent those shelters. So that's an example that I wanted to provide you, just get some initial feedback, and we'd probably bring this back at the next meeting. My guess is we'd want to send some letters to the special event groups saying we're looking at instituting this fee, and let them come forward and let us know their concerns. But it is something that the Common Council did suggest that we take a look at for this year, and they're looking if we are going to have a fee or institute a fee, that it would come through with the 2015 operating budget, which we are currently starting to work on. So.
Discussion, Jim.
Yeah, I guess the only question I've got is how would you determine, depending on the size of the event, whether it would be all shelters or some shelters? How would you determine that?
I think if we take a look at the special events that take place at those locations, they're typically taking up the entire park where they'd be renting all the shelters. I took a look at Menominee Park, and I'll throw out Sawdust Days, for example. They would typically, because of their event, they are utilizing just about every one of the shelters. The one that could be becoming a dispute would be the little shelter that's by Little Oshkosh. But I think for a large event like that, people will stay away from Menominee Park because of the large special event going on. So again, it's where we're losing that revenue potential. So I think we'd be looking at, if you've got a large special event in the parks, you're going to be required to rent all of those shelters for that area. And Trish, correct me if I'm wrong, do we normally pencil those out? Let's take South Park, for example. I think they may pay for Shelter 1 and 2 at this point, but you essentially tell the residents that the gazebo and the other shelter are not available because
Because of the parking.
because of the parking.
Yeah, and it's unusable, they will rent them anyway.
What was your example, Ray, for South Park?
For South Park, I'll take an example of a car show, maybe the Arts Fair recently.
But I think where Jim and I are coming from is, I think if somebody's having a wedding and using one gazebo, one part of South Park, I don't think we should charge that young couple $440.
Nope.
That's not a special.
That's not a
That was-
special
Oh, it's
event.
that, okay.
Yeah, that'd be a private rental.
Okay, all right.
So a special event would be events that go through the special event process where there's, I think it's a minimum of 250 people. They're requesting specific use
Oh,
of a
okay.
park area, so it's
So
all.
very
those-
large,
Correct,
okay.
yes.
Jim?
So how many events are there in those two parks today? Or maybe you can bring it back
Nope.
next meeting?
I can bring it back, but I can
Yep.
give you an idea. I went through the calendar. The Easter egg hunt, but that's something that, they typically are in and out in 2 hours, so that's not as a major of an event. Let me just step back. In my memo, I explained, I would look at these events that take place during our rental season, which is typically April through October. So if there's an event outside of those dates, I wouldn't see charging them, because again, it's not something where they're taking away from the residents. Just to give you an idea, at South Park, you've got the art fair, which was just recently this weekend. We had the car and motorcycle show about 2 weeks ago. There's another Central Wisconsin Auto Show that'll be here in June. Menominee Park, I think the biggest one that I can think of is Sawdust Days. Tricia, I don't think there's any other ones that really would be affected. by Menominee
Don't we
Park.
have a special events policy, like for, especially Sawdust Days?
We have a special events policy, but they're not required to pay any fees other than extraordinary costs, which would be police, fire charges.
Okay.
They don't pay for use of the facilities.
Okay, all right.
Thanks.
I just want to make sure we're not penalizing small groups, nonprofits, that type of thing.
No, those, like you said, the wedding, the anniversaries, those would be private rentals,
Okay.
and those would be separate from what the special event, if they're going through the special event review, their specific use is to utilize the large majority of the park. So I guess we're looking for any ideas. If you think this is, the suggestion that we are using is a good idea, if there's other ones out there, obviously there's a flat fee we could charge. That becomes a little nominal, and it becomes hard to compare apples to apples if you're looking at, what Appleton might do, or Nina Menasha, or Fond du Lac. I think it's probably one of the fairest ways to look at it is to charge the use of those facilities. But, we're open for suggestions, and again, it's just some initial discussion we wanted to have.
I just wanted to say, I think this breakdown, I like that a lot. I think that's a good idea. But I have to say, I guess I'm really surprised that we've never charged them to use those spots. I'm just really surprised that we definitely should be. And I think
Are the rates
Tom.
based on, are the rates based on what other communities are charging? Are they?
Our rental rates for the shelters, we just updated last year during budget, and we did take a look at area communities. So the shelter rental rates are comparable to what other communities charge.
Sean?
I was thinking of different events too, that happen at South Park, for example, there's that South Park dance that's coming up in mid-July or so. And they're really just using the one facility, and one could ask the question, well, why don't they rent that out as a special or a private event and just use a facility instead of the whole park? But the reason that a lot of these groups have to go through that special events permitting process is if they're going to serve alcohol and sell alcohol, for example. So that you can't sell alcohol and just go through the private rental, right?
You cannot sell it, you can purchase alcohol and give it away, like at a
Right,
at
right,
a
if it's
birthday
a
party, family reunion, correct.
But you wouldn't be able to sell. So I think that's a differentiating factor here. A lot of times these groups, I know I used to chair that Easter egg hunt, and that's not a big money maker, but all the money it does raise is going to charity. But a lot, most of these events are generating money and generating revenue. So I think that cost, generally in comparison to a lot of these, is pretty nominal.
And I will say, if we do hear from the groups, we are going to hear that they do give back to the community and that they are nonprofit. But I also think that we need to balance, like Carrie said, that we've never charged for these facilities, and I think we're pretty rare in not doing so. I think most communities you'll find would charge some kind of a rate.
And we do charge for the leach, right? If
Correct.
the leach, or I guess that could be one instance.
Yep. That would be some private rentals again.
Any other discussion? Need a motion or recommendation to pass this on?
Nope, I think, Bill, if we can, because we didn't have it as an action item.
Right, I mean, just
I don't even think,
as it is, as you put it down. Is this
I
how
don't
we want
think
him
it's,
to?
Coming back next meeting for discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
I think,
I don't think this is going to be, I think you should send them letters out, because I can't come up with more than five, I mean, Sawdust Days is the big one, the car show and that stuff, and the art fair and that, I mean, otherwise I can't even,
That would be about
I
it.
can't even picture 5 things that this would even, special events, you have like 100 special event things that we go through, but I don't think any of them are going to, if there's 5 of them, that would be a lot of them.
Would it be appropriate, or could your staff put together kind of a comprehensive list if it is that many, and maybe we even just send a note out, an email out to the organizers for those specific, those 5 events? So
yeah,
they
that's what we
can
hope to do.
respond? Okay.
Yeah, we hope to do that, and that's why I wanted to bring it back at the next meeting as well. And we can provide that list of whoever we send the letters to, because Trish has all that information.
How does everybody feel about what he recommended with
I
the?
think it's fine.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
My only question is just if in some case, something came up where determining whether it's all of the shelters or part of the shelters. Other than that, I think the event is, the fees seem, like they make sense and everything else. But if it's limited to that and, but there again, I guess you have to think of the future. If there'd be something coming up that maybe is big enough, but then maybe it doesn't consume the whole park. I don't know.
Well, when you go to the special events thing to get your license in that, because I go 3 times a year or whatever, I don't know. But anyway, everybody sits around the table, and either Ray or Chad is there for the parks. So if you've got a special event and they decide, they're going to tell you that you owe $455. So it isn't going to be something special. It's just going to be added on to the special events permit.
Yeah, the people that are applying will know well in advance.
That's what I'm saying. Before
Right.
you get your thing, before you get your permit for special events, you're going to tell them they owe you that, just like
Correct.
they tell me I owe for
Buying out the boat.
generators or buying out the park or buying out the boat launch or whatever. They tell you before you leave what you're going to owe, so it's not a big deal that way.
Correct.
What's the process that, because Trish, you get a lot of those calls and book a lot of those. I mean, what's the process when an event has, do they usually make arrangements to get those facilities, like Children's Day Parade at South Park? I mean, is that something where it's just on the calendar and you know when that's going
I
to
have
happen?
a tickler and I pencil them in, and then they go through the special event policy, and once it's approved, then I need them in.
Okay. But and then it's not rented out, though, to other people that might
Correct,
be interested
yeah.
for that weekend?
So I keep them open for the special event.
And according to the special event ordinance, if you have an event, you have essentially first dibs on that date for next year as well. That's spelled out right in the ordinance. So as long as they give us a letter of intent within 60 days of their event taking place this year, that stands for their place on the calendar for next year.
Usually when they come in with the keys back from the shelter, they tell me they're having it for next year.
Okay. And they're not paying anything in that instance?
Correct.
I mean, I almost wonder if this should at least be extended in those cases where people are just using a part of the park to pay that shelter fee for the part of the shelter that they're using on the day that they're using it. I mean, if it's going to amount to, I guess I always had an assumption that those fees were being paid as well, but it is a nominal cost, and it is, I guess, a special privilege that we're giving to events that are approved through the special event process that private citizens don't have.
Correct.
They are being charged for it if they use a shelter,
If
aren't
they
they?
use the shelter.
Yeah, they're being charged.
Well, they are.
Yeah.
But not for the
whole
entire
park.
park.
Not for the
Not all
entire
the
park,
shelters.
just for the shelter they use.
Okay, they are. That's what I was wondering. That's what.
And like
That's
I
what I
said,
thought.
that's only probably 4 events.
Yeah.
With that.
And the only way I could see one would be South Park on that far east
Right.
pavilion.
Number
that
3.
If they're using the west side of the park, that one pavilion still might be able to be used, but you would just subtract that fee from, or
No.
do the whole thing?
Because they don't have any parking or access to it.
For my question.
Okay,
this
all right.
That's
At this
the
point,
part I don't-
till we get the new parking in, according to the master plan.
Yeah.
Okay, so any other discussion? Seeing none, I guess we're waiting for you to bring it back to us.
Yep, we can bring it back, and as I said, we'll send letters of invite out to these groups as well.
Okay, moving on, citizen statements. Seeing none, we'll move on to the director's report.
Just wanted to announce that the pool did open this weekend. It opened portion of the day, obviously, on Sunday with the weather that came through. It was a busy weekend for us. Jenny had snooze at the zoo as well, and we had a large event at the Leach that took place over the weekend on Saturday. So we had a number of staff members in working. Just as a reminder, we do have the streaming live at the Leach concerts on Tuesday nights. They're going to be held again this year, thanks to Citizens First for their donation, and those will start on July 8th and go through August 12th. Bill kind of brought up before, the Bauman Park, we're working with the contractor that had done the dredging work, is responsible for the restoration of Bauman Park, as well as some of the silt fence at West Algoma Park and some of the weeding that needs to go on there. We just had some email correspondence with them today, and those should be taken care of. The weeding and the silt fence should be taken care of this week yet. And Bauman Park, we're working on getting the infield mix and the ball diamond reconstructed over there as well. Otherwise, Bill and Chad, I gave the night off, as well as Jenny and Steve. Just wanted to announce Trace Gardner had a baby girl. So Trace was not able to be here this evening, so congratulations to Trace.
Very good. Okay, next meeting, July 14th, right here in this room, with all the business conducted.
I
Need a
got one
motion?
last thing.
Get on the agenda?
No, it's not, but I just wanted to thank our wonderful Parks Department. Our girls had their big Greater Raider softball tournament, and it was an incredible turnout, all-time record. We had teams from all over the Midwest, upper UP, and the bulk of them from here in Wisconsin, but it was just a great turnout. The Convention and Visitors Bureau were down there in full force, and the Parks Department did a great job. The fields look good, so thanks, guys.
Welcome.
All right. Any other comments?
That's it. Sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to blow up.
Make a motion to adjourn.
You need a second by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.